I walk onto the stage, and the lights are brighter than I expected, but I've learned over the years that discomfort is usually a signal that something important is happening. So I pause for a second and look out at the crowd, and I think about how strange it is that a kid who spent most of his time reading science fiction and programming on an old computer in South Africa would end up here talking about rockets, cars, and the future of humanity. And I tell them that my story doesn't start with success, it starts with curiosity and a refusal to accept that things have to stay the way they are. Because when I was young, I kept asking why, and most answers were unsatisfying. They were usually some version of that's just how it is, and I never liked that answer. So I read books constantly, physics, engineering, philosophy, anything I could get my hands on, because I wanted to understand the underlying rules of the universe. And once you understand the rules, you can start to bend them, or at least work within them in new ways. And when I moved to North America, I didn't have a master plan. I just knew I wanted to work on things that would meaningfully improve the future. And that sounds vague, but it's actually a very practical filter, because time is the one thing you never get back. So whatever you spend it on should matter. And my first companies weren't about money. They were about proving to myself that I could build something from nothing, that I could turn an idea into reality. And when PayPal started to work, people thought I was lucky, but luck is usually what people call persistence. When it finally pays off, and even then I wasn't satisfied, because money is just a tool, it's not the mission. The mission was always about solving big problems. And that's when I looked at space and realized how fragile civilization really is, because we are a single planet species, and that's a risky position to be in. So SpaceX wasn't created because it was easy or profitable. It was created because it was necessary. And I'll be honest, there were moments when it felt like everything was going to fail. Rockets exploding, money running out, critics everywhere telling me it's impossible. And during those moments, you either quit or you double down. And I doubled down not because I'm fearless, but because the alternative of giving up felt worse. And the same thing happened with Tesla. When people said electric cars would never work, that they would always be slow, ugly, and impractical. And again, the answer wasn't to argue endlessly. It was to build and show and let reality be the judge, because reality always wins debates. And along the way, I learned that leadership isn't about being right all the time. It's about being willing to be wrong quickly, to absorb new information, and to change course when the data tells you to. And I also learned that people are everything. Ideas are easy. Execution is brutally hard, and it requires teams of people who believe in a mission strongly enough to endure stress, criticism, and long hours. And when I talk about the future, whether it's artificial intelligence, sustainable energy, or becoming a multiplanetary species, I'm not doing it because it sounds exciting, although it is exciting. I'm doing it because the future is something we build, not something that just happens. And if you don't actively shape it, someone else will, and they may not share your values. So my story isn't about genius or destiny. It's about choosing hard problems and refusing to let fear of failure stop you from trying. Because failure is just data, and every setback contains the information you need to do better next time. And if there's one thing I want people to take away when they see me standing here, it's that progress is possible faster than you think. If you're willing to question assumptions, work relentlessly, and aim not just for success, but for usefulness. Because in the end, what really matters is whether the work you did helped move humanity. Even a small step forward, I continue by saying that as the projects grew, so did the scrutiny. And that's something no one really prepares you for, because when you're small, people ignore you, and when you start to matter, they watch every move, every word, every mistake. And I had to learn that you can't build transformative technology while trying to please everyone, because innovation by definition makes people uncomfortable and sometimes angry. And I tell them that I've been wrong many times, publicly and privately, and that's okay, because being wrong is the price of discovering something new. And if you're never wrong, it usually means you're not pushing hard enough. And I explained that one of the biggest misconceptions about me is that I enjoy chaos, when in reality, I just have a very high tolerance for it, because the problems worth solving are almost always chaotic at first, whether it's launching reusable rockets, creating a global electric vehicle infrastructure, or building systems that connect millions of human brains to a digital network. And I talk about how first principles thinking became my survival mechanism, because when everything feels impossible, you strip the problem down to its fundamental truths and rebuild from there. And suddenly, what seemed impossible becomes merely very difficult. And very difficult is something you can work with step by step, iteration by iteration, failure by failure. And I tell them that motivation doesn't come from optimism, it comes from purpose. Because optimism fades when things go wrong, but purpose keeps you moving even when you're exhausted, even when the odds look terrible. And I admit that there were nights when I slept on factory floors, and moments when I questioned my own decisions, not because the vision was wrong, but because the cost felt incredibly high. And that's when you realize that building the future isn't glamorous. Most of the time, it's repetitive, stressful, and mentally draining, and yet it's also deeply meaningful, because every small breakthrough compounds, and suddenly the impossible becomes normal, and people forget how hard it was to get there. And I tell them that technology is a double-edged sword, and that's why responsibility matters, because tools amplify human intent. And if we don't think carefully about alignment, about safety, about long-term consequences, we risk creating systems we don't fully understand. And that's especially true with artificial intelligence, which I see not as a single invention, but as a force multiplier for civilization. And that's why I push so hard for it to be developed thoughtfully, transparently, and with an emphasis on benefiting humanity as a whole, rather than concentrating power in the hands of a few. And I say that my ultimate goal has never been comfort or legacy, but resilience. The resilience of human civilization, the resilience of truth, the resilience of our ability to explore and expand beyond our current limits. And I remind them that the future will not ask for permission. It will arrive shaped by the actions we take today, or the actions we avoid out of fear. And I end by saying that if my story proves anything, it's that ordinary people with an intense focus and a willingness to endure discomfort can do extraordinary things. And that the most important question you can ask yourself is not, can this be done, but should it be done? And if the answer is yes, then the next step is simple, not easy, but simple. You start and you keep going, and you don't stop when it gets hard. You stop when it's done. I take another breath and tell them that somewhere along the way, I realized that scale changes everything, because a small decision made early can ripple outward and affect millions of lives. And that's a responsibility. You don't shrug off lightly, even if you joke on social media or appear casual on the surface. And I explained that pressure doesn't disappear with success. It transforms, because instead of worrying about survival, you worry about impact, about unintended consequences, about whether you're accelerating the right futures and slowing down the wrong ones. And I say that one of the hardest lessons I learned is that speed matters, but direction matters more. Because moving fast in the wrong direction just gets you to a bad outcome sooner. And that's why I spend so much time thinking about fundamentals like energy, abundance, information, integrity, and the long-term survival curve of civilization. And I tell them that boredom is actually a bigger enemy than failure, because boredom means you're no longer learning. And when you stop learning, you stop adapting. And in a world that's changing exponentially, that's effectively choosing obsolescence. And I admit that I deliberately take on too much, because the alternative is complacency, and complacency is how great civilizations stagnate and collapse, not with a dramatic explosion, but with a slow loss of ambition and curiosity. And I talk about how the public often sees outcomes but not the trade-offs. Because every breakthrough comes with sacrifices, missed family moments, relentless schedules, emotional strain, and a constant internal debate about whether the cost is justified. And I say that I don't expect everyone to make those trade-offs, and that's okay, because progress needs many different kinds of contributors, not just founders and engineers, but teachers, artists, thinkers, and people who ask uncomfortable questions and hold power accountable. And I tell them that criticism, when it's thoughtful, is a gift, because it forces you to sharpen your reasoning. But criticism without understanding is just noise. And learning to tell the difference is a skill that takes time and scars. And I emphasize that optimism grounded in reality is a powerful force, because it gives people permission to try again after failing. And failing is unavoidable if you're doing anything ambitious. And I say that if I could go back and tell my younger self anything, it would be that pain is not a signal to stop. It's a signal to refine, to adjust, to grow stronger and more